the middle management population of our organization is the most important group of people that we need to work with, because they have they create the psychological safety of their teams. It's them that their teams look up to. We're in the ivory tower somewhere, kind of thing. But actually, it's your immediate leader that sets your work plan, that gives you the guidance, that supports you, that trains you, that is your go-to person. And if that person hasn't translated a vision that they're passionate about into you, then actually the whole thing sort of stops at the leadership level.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the HR Leaders Podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by Pauline Hogg, Head of UK HR at Arla Foods. We discuss Arla Foods' change journey and how they're developing the leaders for the disrupted 21st century and moving from functional leaders to business leaders. As always, before we jump into the video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and follow on your favorite podcast platform. With that being said, enjoy the episode. Welcome to the show, Pauline. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's lovely to be here.
It's been a while. I love the fact that you're representing the brand behind you, by the way.
Yes.
Deserves Lurpak.
Good food deserves Lurpak.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've known about Arla Food for a long, long time. But the amount of people I speak to that don't know the company brand, but they know your brands, consumer brands. Is that something you experience? Just out of curiosity, really random way to start a show, but
yeah, absolutely. So when I first joined 6 years ago, we had a 2% unprompted awareness of the brand Arla, but everybody knew who Lurpak was. So we've been on a journey over the last few years to produce our own branded products.
Like the yogurts that I'm obsessed with.
Yeah.
The strawberry Arla protein yogurt. Yeah. I eat them every day. I love them. They're my favorite.
Guilt-free as well. So that's all good. So we've been on a really good journey over the last few years. And so now we're an organization that everybody knows. And with that comes that, the auspiciousness of being able to go out and have an opinion on things, and people expect us to have an opinion on things as well. So yeah, it's great to be here today to share some of that kind of our learnings, our journey with you guys.
Yeah, talking of journeys, tell everyone a little bit more about you personally and your journey to where we are now.
Yeah, so I have a background in retail and FMCG. I couldn't tell you about any other industry. So from the age of 16, I was told that if you want the things that you want, then get yourself a job. So I ended up on a checkout at Sainsbury's, and so I ended up going into retail, into stores, did a management degree, and did Sainsbury's graduate scheme after that. So all in all, right through school, sixth form, university, and then post graduation, I was at Sainsbury's for 9 years, did 8 Christmases with them. So nothing more exciting than to spend Christmas Eve in a supermarket where, people are fighting over the last bag of carrots and parsnips and things like that.
Is it really that manic? You hear about those stories. Is it really that manic during that time? To be on the other end, we don't see it as a consumer, but being in there, you must be like, oh my God, this is chaos.
Yeah, there was always a big deep breath. It's Christmas, and but actually once you're in, there's a real camaraderie in stores, and you just see waves of customers coming in and things. So I remember one year sort of going up and down the aisles with sweets for people queuing and things like that, because you just never know when people are going to turn up for their shop.
No.
So interesting time.
At least you didn't have to experience sort of the crazy Black Friday sale moments.
Yeah.
Where people are fighting.
I was
over
gone
TV.
way before that.
Yeah, fighting over TVs and stuff like that. It always still surprises me even to this day that that's a thing. That's a phenomenon. As well. So fast forward to where we are now. Tell us everyone a little bit more about your current role and responsibility within your organization.
So I left Sainsbury's, joined Unilever for a year, loved it, but what was I think probably for me personally was in the wrong end of the country, and then left Unilever to go up to Yorkshire, which is where I'm originally from, and worked for Carlsberg Tetley for 3 years. So had a great time at Carlsberg Tetley, lived the brand, but also did my brewing exams as well. So
did you really?
So I think that was
Do you have to do that, or are you just really excited to do it just to say, oh, I've done that?
Yeah, it was. I think it was quite interesting. You see all the the barley coming in and the process of it all, and big sort of 500 hectolitre tanks and things. And it's a science. And when you speak to the brewers, there's a real alchemy behind brewing. Very similar to cheese. I was actually talking to one of our guys who works in the Stilton dairy in Melton Mowbray this morning, actually, and we were talking about the parallels with cheese making. So there's this real sort of sense of the alchemy of cheese and brewing. So I do like cheese and beer, but
it worked out well then.
It did. It's worked out very well.
Is there? I've always wanted to know: is in those companies, like your current company and even like the tea company, is there someone's job to taste? Is there? Yes. What's their job title? Like, and drink.
So,
like, is
so
actually...
in Unilever, in the tea category in Unilever, there were tea tasters.
That's their job.
It's a real, absolutely, yeah. And it's a big science behind that. And actually, in the brewing industry, they would have a taste panel at 12 o'clock
really?
on, in the old days. And I don't know whether they do that now, but there would be the science behind where your taste buds are on your tongue, and what flavors your tongue picks up on, where in your mouth you see you pick up on salts and esters and all sorts of stuff. Really fascinating.
That's
stuff.
Not a bad job, is it?
Yeah.
You got to love cheese to do that, and love tea to be involved in that.
Yeah, I've never been involved in dog food and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely not. So, what's top of mind? What's top of mind right now? Like, it's been the last 2 years have been crazy. That doesn't seem like it's slowing down much, to be honest. What's really top of mind for you right now in the team?
I think, as is with a lot of people, the cost of living, inflationary pressures, the demands on our people, the demands on our businesses, on our retailers, demands on society are an issue. And of course that sort of travels through into the labour market scarcity, and and the fact that we're just in this perfect storm at the moment. So that is top of mind, making sure that we are retaining and we're able to attract the right people, and get them into our organisation. And as we started this conversation off, not many people knew about Arla, but they do now. So we're on that journey of being able to tell people a lot more emphatically about who we are, what we do, what our purpose is, and things. So, but that's I would say that's top of mind.
Yeah, and all of that comes with change management, and that's something we spoke a lot about in our last conversation. And something that you sparked, which has kind of been in my mind since, is, how do we get leaders to own the change? So I'd love to hear more about the process and journey you've gone through with the team. I know you spoke last time talking about for colleagues, by colleagues is one of the things that I remember you saying. So if you could share more about that, that'd be great. Yeah,
for sure. So we started this journey quite a number of years ago, where we actually brought Matthew Syed in to speak to our top sort of 350 people in the UK. And we really embraced the whole concept around growth mindset, black box thinking, and actually sort of this whole sense of, are we playing to win here, or are we playing not to lose? And so we started this journey out by really sort of thinking around how do we get people to be really open around where they are, how are we learning, and in FMCG, in dairy, it's a very fast moving business, and in dairy specifically, we're at the pointy end of fast moving in terms of if a supermarket doesn't get milk and it doesn't get bread, then it hits the papers. So it's a very, very fast business, but it's also quite a complex business in terms of what do you do with the raw milk that comes in? You can send it off to cream, milks, to cheeses. It takes
protein
12
powders.
years to, exactly, protein powders, yeah. So, but do you make decisions around how much cheese do you lay down for 12 months to make cheddar? And what do the supermarkets need? What do food service need, and things? So it requires a huge amount of planning and a huge amount of organizational awareness from an organization which typically in a lot of businesses are quite siloed and matrixed. So it's a bit of, this is my job, that's your job, and how much baton passing is there between. And we sat as a leadership team and said, right, so who else is thinking as broadly as we are around some big business issues around how do we make sure that we're really galvanizing around the sustainability agenda? How do we deliver on an organic agenda? How do we really excite all of our stakeholders right across the piece around dairy and around our business? How do we really embrace digital and e-commerce right across the piece? How do we get everybody in a matrixed organization to work on a people agenda that really needs to sit right across all of the functions? And so we came to the conclusion that we had some fantastic functional expertise in the business. And but actually what we needed to do was get more people thinking as broadly as possible and go from our leaders being functional leaders and experts to being business leaders. And so what we did is we got a group of around 80 people, and we knew that we needed to create some change in the organization. And we had a mandate from the global organization based in Denmark to say, look, we need to do some big efficiencies here. Our milk price isn't in the right place. We've got some real efficiencies to make, but this isn't a salami slicing cost cutting exercise. We actually need to rewire the organization. And as a leadership team, we all said, oh, well, great, somebody else's vision, but we're all good here. Thank you very much. And it wasn't until we looked each other in the eye and said, actually, if we don't take hold of this and own it ourselves, then something's going to be done to us. So we then quite quickly translated that into a premise of, well, if we think that and we've got this resistance as the UK leadership team, then the people underneath us, some of whom report into us, but some of whom report globally, are never going to buy into what we wanted to do. And so we got people together and we created what's now known as the Change Leaders Forum. And in that forum, we had some quite robust conversations around actually the middle management population of our organization is the most important group of people that we need to work with, because they have they create the psychological safety of their teams. It's them that their teams look up to. We're in the ivory tower somewhere, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But actually, it's your immediate leader that sets your work plan, that gives you the guidance, that supports you, that trains you, that is your go-to person. And if that person hasn't translated a vision that they're passionate about into you, then actually the whole thing sort of stops at the leadership level. And so we had a few sessions with this group of 80 people, and it was really interesting around some of them were immediately bought in. I want a part of this. I want to be part of a bigger journey. I want to be able to make the connections, and see that, my impact is broader than my current job. And some people were quite interesting how they reacted around, they were like, just tell us what number you want us to hit and we'll go and do it. Yeah. And other people were kind of caught between the headlights around, am I really this leader? And it was a really interesting concept for us to watch how people sort of looked at us and went, I've never really thought of myself as a leader before, because I've ended up in this leadership role, but I've always been the manager or whatever, and we'll do a bit of a work plan, but we had to turn these leaders into being really comfortable as being a leader and being able to own an agenda and being a change leader, originated
right?
Like
you mentioned earlier. Because you said this before as well, like there's an assumption, isn't there, that leaders understand the change.
Yeah.
We just assume they get it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was one of our biggest learnings, because, as I said, when the leadership team all came together, we looked at each other and went, there was a few sort of looking around the room going, well, that's honest.
It's so honest.
You just sort out supply chain, and we'll sort out, marketing and things like that. And actually we were honest, I think, based on the black box thinking kind of work, that was actually, if we don't own this, and we don't go through the process of change ourselves, then how can we ever envision a future that anybody else is going to buy into. We're just another puppet in the chain. So we actually made a pact as a leadership team at that point of view to then say, right, we own this and we're going to drive it, and we're going to excite a much bigger, broader organization. And the vision, I guess more in hindsight now is actually how do you democratize the change so that people feel that ownership and accountability of, I'm part of this organization, and I can affect a change for the better.
Yeah. What were some of for everyone listening, because I'm sure there isn't really companies that aren't going through change right now, really, to be honest, we all are in various ways. What are some of the practical things that you did to bring those leaders on that journey? What so that at least that perhaps our listeners can do and go away and make happen?
I think if you're not changing in an organization, then probably think again. So there'll be change going on in every organization, whether that's really obvious or not. But the world's changing. The world's moving so quickly, and it certainly spins quite fast, I think. So I think the first thing is to really get curious around what's the context that we're working in, and bring some of those stories to life. One of the things that was a real catalyst for us was, as a food business, we needed to make sure that people understood our business model, so we're cooperative, so we're owned by farmers. So every time we buy an Arla product, it goes back into a circular economy of the farmers investing in long-term sustainability. So great purpose to start with. So understanding that from the word go was important for those people.
Did most people know that, by the way, when you did the research? No.
Not many.
What percentage would you say
people.
roughly? I appreciate you have the numbers right now. What would you say roughly, but the percentage of people that actually understood that you served the farmers, etc., and that whole economy around that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're not in Arla, a lot of people that really haven't got a clue that Arla's a cooperative. I mean, we have got a fairly good induction plan, so we do talk to people and we do bring farmers in, and we talk about the whole sort of milk cycle and how the cooperative model works. But to bring that to life, we actually brought farmers in. Who were very excited to bring a piece of their farm in. So we brought, there was one of our farmers brought a clod of earth in. He was an organic farmer, and he was literally with a big group of people like, look how many organisms there are in this soil,
so
and
cool.
This is what I look after. And people were like,
that brings it to life, right? That really, if you're trying to connect it to people's purposes and talking, then you really, that's cool.
And in the drought a couple of years ago, he'd come in at that point in time and he said, there's nothing when you've got no feed coming in, and there's nothing like you get up in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and you've got 300 cows looking at you saying, where's my breakfast? It's sort of like this it's about storytelling. Yes. And you really, bringing things to life. What we did do though was, as a food company, was we want people to be excited about what we make and why we make it. So we make cheeses and we make creams and we make cottage cheese and protein yogurts and things like that. But they needed to know about it. They needed to know the nutritional sort of content and why it's a good product. So we also then said, well, actually, be interested in your own health and well-being. So we partnered with Workathlete, which is led by Rob Vickerman, who's the ex-England Sevens captain, rugby captain, and we put people through a program with him where they were wearing heart rate variability monitors, the food intolerance tests. They had coaching with Rachel McKenzie, who's also a kickboxing champion and things. And so we put this 80 people through a real sort of health assessment and said, look, we want you to be really interested in yourself. This is our investment in you, and actually, if you get interested in yourself, then start to create a well-being journey with your teams as well. And and actually, this is part and parcel of the fact that a healthy body is a healthy mind, and a healthy employee at the end of the day. So that investment was a great way to galvanize people. we had a few people who made some big life-changing decisions, and changed their physique around some things, and so immediately there was a pull, there was a sell, there was a reason to be part of this group. There was lots of story sharing and things, and so from then it really has grown. I've got to say that COVID in this instance obviously has never been helpful, but in this instance was really helpful to really expedite that. And so we were quick to try and make sure that every change leader in the organization was then having a health and well-being conversation, team events during COVID, whether they were in lockdown, whether they were on sites. And the Arlympics was born.
That's cool. That's a good name there.
lots of marketing.
I was about to say it's cheesy, which is also another pun as well. There. That's cool.
Our Christmas panto, Aladdin, all of those kind of things.
Aladdin, oh my God! I bet there's so many. I bet you're right. Oh, I love it.
we'll go over there with thank moves and all.
But that's a great way though to
things.
link the brand to the product, the brand to well-being. I love that connection there. It's great.
At the end of the day, we're proud of what we make. We're proud of what we do. We do it with the best intent, and and I think people need to understand that it's full of amino acids and calcium and the good stuff. So and unless people know that, then it's a commodity and it's a process. So it's also a reason to engage and to really drive purpose around what we do.
Because you could have really took the easy route like most companies do and just say, hey, we've got this platform you can go and access if you want. That's it. Here it is. When most companies do that, right? They invest in some platform, it sits somewhere and no one ever even goes and looks at it or engages in it. And it's such a missed opportunity.
It's I think in a lot of these things, the what is only 20%. It's the how that is where the magic is done. And for me, nobody wants to hear me spouting on around some stuff in my job role. They want to hear from their peers. They want to hear from their teams, their leaders, their colleagues around what works, what's working for them, what's not working for them. So the power of storytelling is something that we've really harnessed, and that has been driven through the Change Leaders Forum going first. And the thing that was really the catalyst of the Change Leaders was we watched the Derek Sivers video. So where it's the crazy dancing guy in a field.
Yes.
I don't know how many times I've watched this film. It's 3 minutes long. If you go onto his website, there's the narrative of him sort of talking over.
Bruno, what would be great? Bruno, add it in here. Please, in the edit.
Pause this and go away and watch it.
Yeah, we'll do that so it's included in the video. And we'll look that up. Explain that for people if you can articulate it.
I don't know how many zillion management books and leadership books there are in the world, but 3 minutes of this video for me just nailed it. And it's really around a couple of crazy guys at a festival, and they're dancing. There's a whole field of people sitting down, and these guys are having a whale of a time, and they look like lone nuts. But actually, what ensues is within 2-3 minutes, the rest of the field are up dancing. And the lessons there around, it's not about the lone nuts, but it's about the first followers. So how much effort can you get to reinforce the behaviors of the first people to follow you? And that then means that other people will follow them. And that's been really the premise of the whole of the Change Leaders Forum. And we've seen that in utilizing Yammer as a platform in our organization. We've now got up to 1,000. We've only got 3,700 colleagues, including all supply chain, all drivers in the UK. We've got 1,000 people on our Yammer UK platform, on Yammer, active users. We had then 82,000 messages read in June, sorry. So we're just, the engagement is that people are now creating their own content. They're now storytelling with each other, and that's been sort of propagated by our leaders going first. and our leaders putting themselves out there. We've been doing some communications takeovers by some subgroups of the Change Leaders Forum, and I don't know what it is about Arla, but people love dressing up. So so there's loads of fancy dress things, and all sorts of different.
But you've given them the platform. That's the thing, right? We've kind of got out the way and just given people the platform to. And again, that was one of the things that the silver linings of the pandemic, right? Is that although we were so far apart, we all of a sudden became connected through technology. And now, for example, those drivers that you're talking about that are on the road, those people in the warehouses, now they're all connected for the first time via a virtual platform. Yeah. Before, they would never even talk to each other, see each other, hear a story or a journey. And now all of a sudden you've got this Yammer platform with, they're all in there, right? Sharing their journeys, their experiences. They feel connected. They feel part of something bigger. And that was one of the things that came out of the pandemic, which was great.
Completely. We've now got 800 people sort of dialing into our business and talk town halls. So we do one of those every month. And actually, it was last year in Mental Health Week that one of our drivers attended one of our sessions that had been put on by a group that had curated it all themselves. And he came forward and said, "Look, I'm really struggling. I'm really struggling. I'm eating the wrong stuff. I'm living out of service stations. I've been in touch with Andy's Man Club, which is an anti-suicide group." He said, I'm absolutely at my wit's end. And it was one of the change leaders on that group who said, "I want to help you." And this was a guy in food service. So he looks after all of our quick service restaurants and the food service business. And he said, "I'd really love to help you, and I'm going to put you in touch with our chef." So we've got a chef who works with cheese, and stringiness of cheese, and what we can do with it in MPD and stuff. And so our chef went out on the milk tankard run with him. Spent a whole day together. They videoed it, and then they started this blog of how could we help this gentleman, really sort of make some changes. And so they ended up, good buddies, cooking together. They created these little video blogs, and we posted these on Yammer. And we watched this gentleman go through this real journey with our chef. And they started to create this content. And then this year, on the back of that, in fact, the whole of the food service team went and walked the Yorkshire Three Peaks with him, after 3 months, and said, "Right, we're gonna create this for you." And they just galvanized around this guy. And so this year, what we've done is we've said, well, how many more of these people, can we help? And if people want to come forward, then do. We've had another 5 people come forward and say, I want to be able to work on myself, and will you help me? So we've again put them through Work Athlete and Rob Vickerman, and they're doing some diet stuff, and they're doing some exercise stuff, and the condition is they blog it and they share it with the rest of the organization. So there's loads of like small examples of stories that have coming through because our change leaders have started to own a little bit of the journey themselves. And that's
also voice that it's okay not to be okay, right?
Completely.
It's such a big part of it. And especially the example you described, it's a lonely job, being on the road. It's all good, well and good for us to say, complain, but they're eating out. They literally are stopping at service stations, and we all know about service stations, not the healthiest options, are they? when you start off and you're kind of isolated, driving for hours and hours on the road. And I'm sure there's so many others out there feeling the same way, and obviously all other parts of the business as well. So the storytelling, as you said, back to this theme, is so important, right? Which encourage those other people to come forward. And it's that effect that shapes your culture, that shapes your wider purpose, the values, the business itself, as well. Those are the real heroes behind the organizations, right? As well. On the flip side, though, I do want to ask this question: how do you overcome, or how did you deal with those functional leaders that weren't willing to change from being functional leaders to change leaders, who weren't willing to understand this new direction and what that means? Because we're talking about it like it's all roses, but it's not.
No, of course not. And actually, that's been a real learning for me as well, because there are different people who come to work and they do some brilliant jobs. Some people end up being single contributors. Some people end up in leadership positions, and everybody's leadership style is different. And so, what we said to people, a few months in was, how do you show up to these sessions? Are you a player? Are you a passenger? Or are you a prisoner? And that is all about, do you really want to be here? Generally, who are you being here when you're here? And to be a player, if you think about the sporting analogy, football, piggy sport, you've got to be humble enough to take feedback. You've got to be all in. You've got to be championing other people. You've got to be cheerleading the rest of the team. You've got to be happy for other people to have the ball or whatever. You've got to be able to pass, all of those kind of things. But you're on it. You're part and parcel of being part of the group. If you're a passenger, and you can sometimes get these people mixed because they appear like that in the session, very engaged, having a great time, really interested in the content, really sort of, I get this. The good stuff is they become more engaged because of it, but actually they're just along for the ride, and so they don't do anything with it. They're sort of, whatever, I'll participate, but I'm just here to nod and smile and be that passenger. And then you've got the prisoners who are pretty much there under duress or feeling like they have to, or because of their job title, they can't say I'm busy or I'm dipping out. And that's fine if people recognize what role that they're playing. And we all play all of those roles in many different meetings that we go to during the week. So it's a great concept to then think about, am I being a player, a passenger, a prisoner in X meeting or in Y sort of, interaction. But we asked people to then think about how they really showed up. And then we said, okay, what do you do with the information? So are you a bucket, a sieve, or an amplifier? All very random concepts. But I think, when you sort of able to help people articulate, do I just hold on to all of the information that I've got and it goes nowhere? At which point it's like, well, why are you there, kind of thing? What onward value do you give? Or are you a sieve where actually everything just goes through you? So you get a deck sent to you, onward, off you go, right, that's me done. Or are you an amplifier? And well, what does an amplifier do? It gives it some real bass boost. It gives it some heart, some beat, some ownership of, real thump throughout the organization, and you can feel it sort of reverberate. And so choose whether you are a bucket, a sieve, or an amplifier. And actually what we're really looking for are for players who are amplifying. So that's the sort of the context that we gave people.
Yeah.
And we've been on quite a journey with some people. Some people we had some question marks over. We've had conversations with those people. Some people came forward and said, I can't do what you're doing. I can't stand at the front and wave my arms around and do all this, inspiring stuff. And the message to them is, do what's right within your own value set and bring your own personality to change leadership. And actually, you've got change that you might want to deliver in the organization that you need the rest of this group. And we've had some people who realize that actually they don't have to mimic somebody else. They can be themselves. But the crunch is coming this year around what we've done is we've split people into very small groups, each with a leadership team member. And there's another comms takeover, one per month all this year. And actually that helps us to then say, well, is there a change of guard at the end of this year that then says who's been a really active player this year, when actually it's quite a visceral, tangible activity that they can amplify throughout their time in the year. And if they haven't come to the party on that, then we're going to swap them with somebody else. And we've made, we've made no bones about that, because there's plenty of people who want to, who can affect change and who want to be part of that.
Yeah, no, love that. So overall, good response, but obviously you're going to get those.
Yeah,
people.
There's always some, of course.
Yeah,
you know.
I love the story. I love the journey, and it's there's no end goal, right? This is constantly evolving as well. For those people listening, this isn't like there's a deadline.
No,
it's ever evolving. That's also a misconception, isn't it? That there's sort of
we've just gone where the energy is, and we've tried some things and they've failed, and we've uncovered stuff that actually have just is taken off and run with things, so. It's I think you just got to keep trying things and see, what is going to work. If you can find somebody with a bit of passion, then they make it happen. There's a group that's just formed that they've taken mental well-being and they've just made it their own. So very very hands off from HR. There's a couple of people associated, but they're finding third-party speakers who want to come and talk to us, and they're doing sessions with people, and they're just curating some content that helps people. So it's been a real team effort.
How does that make you feel, seeing people go through that journey?
I've got to say I'm enormously proud. My MD said to the group a few months ago, actually, and I really sort of it really sort of chimes with me around, that you're onto something when you haven't got a clue what's going on, but you see brilliant things going on everywhere. And actually what you started with a little framework, with some concepts, and when you see it somewhere else just being taken, it just fills you with pride. It fills you with this sense of, I go back to sort of Dan Pink's thing around, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Give people a real purpose, give them some, a framework and a license to go there. And you just see people doing stuff in their own time, not on their jobs, on their job to-do list and things. And that's, that's the magic of it.
That's why we get out of bed every day.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, and I love that. And I'll say congratulations to you and the team so far, and for everyone involved, right? It's a team effort.
It is a team. It's this is many players.
Yeah. What would be a parting message you'll give to people listening that are going through a similar journey, and then we'll say goodbye?
I think don't underestimate the power and the interest that people have in your organization. They come to work and they want to know more stuff about how things work. They want to have a bigger picture. They are willing to share their stories. So give them a platform to share their stories, and it will happen. But you've got to be able to lead that as a team of leaders.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. Well, look, thanks for coming on the show. I'm glad we made it happen. And I look forward to continuing to follow you and the journey and eating lovely Arla yogurts. I see your brand every day. I love it. But keep up the amazing work. Honestly, I've really enjoyed the conversation. I look forward to doing it again soon. Thanks.
Great stuff. Thanks a lot, Chris. Take care. Bye now.